Hey all, Tabs here. We are back playing some more Planet Zoo. So back inside the dome. In the last episode, we added the grotto. Thank you for all the support, some new subscribers and everything. This series seems to be going down pretty well, so thank you for all of those new people and all the new views and all the new subs and all that sort of stuff. It's super appreciated. So in the last episode we added the grotto, the tropical grotto, and we are finally getting into the water. So there's a few things going on, there's a lot of things in this speed build, and as I said, there's always a bit at the end where I do a bit of a walk around, and there's always lots of things in the walk around that are not in the speed build because I've fiddled after I've recorded the speed build, which is sort of the way I do it. So I wanted to kind of soften the edges of the pools up. And the real, if you haven't caught one of these before, this dome is inspired by a dome in the Paris Zoo, or in the Parc Zoolgique in France, and they do actually have manatees. The kind of the feature of these pools is the manatees, and actually, funny enough, someone commented, I think, on one of the previous videos saying you've got to have manatees. I was like, yeah, I've got manatees. I actually was working on them at the time. So here's our manatee. Here comes our manatee. And this is not easy. This is not easy. There's lots of people in the game who are like really proficient with the art shapes. I would say I'm not one of them yet. I'm working on it. I'm trying hard. I put that pole in there just for reference, size reference. So they're about, I think they're not that much bigger than a human, height wise or length wise, so I kind of use that pole as a reference against one of the staff members to get the size right. And then just lots of kind of fiddling and putting these big chubby fins on. It's all right, it's okay at a distance. That's why I've not made this whole video about this, because I wasn't 100% happy with it. I think maybe it will get better as new pieces come out. Maybe I'll be able to tweak it. One of the biggest things was the fins, getting the sort of thinness of these fins right, because obviously we've got an enormous amount of pieces. I probably could have done a better job on this, so it will probably be one of the things that I keep fiddling with. So just putting some eyes in. Just to go back to those little kind of net things you see in the background there, or you saw at the beginning of the speed build. So I was kind of trying to break up the edge, the concrete edge a bit, and sort of just soften the shapes. So I thought what would be good would be to add in something that kind of looks like it's flower beds, but they're protected from things coming and sort of eating them. Obviously the manatees and eventually the tapirs, when we see them, would eat the foliage. So I've sort of softened them off and put these little raised beds in, and I'll be doing that all around the waterways. So we're now adding in a second habitat boundary. Although actually no, it's the third, isn't it? Because there's two monkey enclosures, monkeys. Oh, the quick one here as well, actually, if you haven't realised it. So most of the habitat perimeters do not let you put curved walls in, so the trick is to put glass down first and then switch it from glass to whatever texture you want. I think most of them, at least definitely these wires will let you put in a curved habitat wall. So this is supposed to be like a floating, almost like more like a floating net. So I put in this kind of idea of these like floats down here. So this is going to divide. I mean, this doesn't really matter because the manatee is not real, but putting this divide down between the those two habitats. I left this bit of footage in actually, so this is quite interesting. This is quite often what I do. So I find this item and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Can I make it work like that? And you'll see it's one of the like covers. So I thought I'd leave this in because it just shows my process. It ends up being like a fence. So I've flipped it over here and I'm making a circle out of it to get a curve there, and I'll delete this whole section. But I thought that was quite, just quite good indication of the way I do things. It's like quite often find something, I'm like, oh, that's a really cool texture. How can I use that differently? So I may well go back and use that fence, how we've sort of showed it first, because a lot of these like made textures have got real good, cool like details and things in them. So those sort of prop objects have got really good details and stuff. If you can make those into, use them as many times as you can for different purposes. So we'll see all of this in more detail when we do the walk around. But I'm now trying to sort of divide up. So I've done this a couple of times now. So there's one, although technically there's one big habitat, I'm dividing it into two. And all you have to do in order to do this is make sure that there's a traversable area for the animals. So basically there's a gap between, you can sort of see it there. There's a gap in the rocks there that is traversable by a keeper but will not be traversable by the tapirs. So the tapirs their hitbox will clash and they won't be able to get through that gap, but the keeper will be able to. So what that will mean is I can have one habitat gate and technically have two habitats here. So the other side of the island here will be a different habitat. And the keeper will be able to just come on, because I didn't want to have lots of bridges across onto the island. So in theory, this will work. And we will just have the keeper come in, and I think this will work. He'll service all of these animals together. So now put some foliage in. I started using this idea of like the palms being supported, so I used that prop there. Now we're working on this tree. So this big sort of feature tree, so that needs to be lush, and sort of continuing the theme of a lot of the stuff that we did in the grotto. So it's got creeping vines, and it's going to have a load of kind of decoration and stuff on it. And as I said, a lot of this is how I'm doing these speed builds is kind of just showing you like the bits and then the detail that you'll see in the final sections of the video, or the tool bit of the real-time bit of the video. So yeah, just layers and layers and layers and layers and layers again. And then there you see my kind of my wall is back. I've put a bridge down. I think I end up replacing that in a second. And I had to fiddle around a lot with the habitat perimeter in order to get access across. Originally it was just going to be that the keeper could come across, and then I decided to give the tapirs a bit more space as well. So where are we now? So we're just fiddling with this wall, and I think this is the monkey side. So it's going to look like this barrier goes back to basically go over to my little bit where I'm keeping my pallet, and I'm replicating this bamboo wall that we've got on the monkey enclosure. So yeah, and then this sort of just soften this, put this trim round as the tapir comes and interacts with it. Actually, it was quite cool as I'm doing this. I've put one in to see the size. He's like jumps over the barrier, so just to soften that edge. And now we've got putting in this viewing area, which is on on the grotto side. You'll see a few crashes or a few saves actually here, guys, like almost like paranoia level of saves. I had lots and lots of crashes in this session. I hope it's really not an indication of things to come, but I also seem to be having lots of problems with the traversable area, so the climbing monkeys and stuff like that. It seems to just be recalculating it all the time and struggling to do so. So here's I did a slightly different thing with the ground texture in this. So I've just put the bedding down here, and like it's a bit of a mix between some mulch and some bedding, putting in these things that are supposed to be like protected beds, so flower beds. Again, the idea that if you're going to have something in, there's a monkey randomly just appears, cheeky chappies. If you're going to have these beds, they need to be protected from the animals, from like the animal getting to the tree and stuff. So that's the idea of that. So now we're working our way back across the bridge. So this isn't guest access, but this is kind of like the night house for the tapirs. So this took quite a lot of fiddling actually, because I was sort of reluctant to put anything that broke the waterway, but I sort of I put this grid in. It's supposed to be like it's the water can pass through. It's being sort of filtered out through the other side, but don't really put it on the other side. And yeah, so it's sort of a combination of two things really, that I wanted to give them somewhere like a night house. I also needed to be able to get the keeper into the habitat, or I wanted to get the keeper into the habitat. I don't massively need to because it's Sandbox, but yeah, I decided I kind of wanted to in this one. So here we are I picked up this sort of rolling door from the workshop and just adapting it to fit the space that I have. This isn't finished, but we're getting to the end of the speed build now actually. So sort of put this platform down. You'll see this in more detail in a minute. And this sort of viewing portal that people can look down on. So we are getting to the end of the speed build, guys, and I will be back with you very shortly for the real-time section. Okay, peoples, welcome back to the real-time section. So we are starting on the outside as we always do. It's because a few things have changed. We've got let a few special VIP guests in this time. I put little bits down. I don't know why. Little nubs. Just as a little bit of detail. I have changed this in here a little bit. It's still not finished. It still needs a load of work doing to it. Played around with this idea that it's like sort of stars in the sky. I know the Aztecs, and I think a couple of the big sort of ancient South American cultures had a big thing with the stars and sort of the sun and all that sort of thing. So that's a little bit of a nod to that, but it was also just I was playing around with it. We've still got to do loads of stuff in here, and there's still loads of stuff to do in the backstage areas and things. Put these columns in. I will give you a little bit of a night tour as well at the end. So let's just zoom through here. This is definitely always my favourite bit. Just that immediate impact is always super cool. So if we go, I made a little change here of using this I'm going to start using these more. So this needs some detail on it, but it's supposed to be about this. So I'm trying to connect this kind of theme of educational stuff together. Because if you saw the last episode, you'll have seen the insects. Oh, we do have people viewing from here. That's cool. That's cool because in theory, they look like they're looking at the manatee. So here's our manatee. In its sort of derpiest of forms. There is another one up there somewhere. Obviously they don't move, so they're just chilling. Just looks like he's grazing. It's difficult to get an angle where he looks great, but there you go. So here's all those little sort of netted beds, and it definitely softens the whole edge up now. It feels like it really kind of becomes a bit more immersive. Obviously still got loads to do back. Some of these sightlines still not quite right, but you may have noticed I spend a lot of time actually in the speed builds. It's why they take me so long to do these episodes, because I spend a lot of time zooming the camera around to get the sightlines right, which isn't great for kind of motion sickness in the speed build, but hopefully it's not too bad, guys. So yeah, happy with that view. I think the one thing that I did kind of compromise on, like obviously I've got this whole thing where these are all, I said the stuff about them being protected from the animals, and then I've put some lilies in, but I kind of just wanted the lilies. So this is our first view of the tapirs, and there's my little kind of raised sort of netting barrier. I had to raise this up actually a little bit because they will come over the top of that, but I'm alright with that. Let's move around. So we get another view. Obviously this is the first view you get of them. Quite a cool angle. I'll put this little raft thing in, just playing around with an idea. And if you've seen these episodes, you'll have noticed that most of the time I go back and fiddle with things, so that may well get fiddled with as well. So this is our first good, I'd say this is the first good view of the tapirs. I love the fact that they swim. He is so cute as well, the little baby. I hadn't seen these before. This is the first time I've used these. I'll put them in the zoo. So yeah, they do. I kind of actually quite like the fact they just plop over the side of that. See the little baby do it. Yoink! You going? No, I'm a bit nervous. He's not too confident yet. Don't slip. That's so cute, man. I've changed all the settings so that I keep the baby forever. Oh, he's... No? Okay, he did go. Yeah, so I put this in. I've got two reasons I put that in. The first time, if I left it like that, they kind of just weirdly glitch over the edge. They kind of walk up the edge of that. Even though it's really steep, they walk up the edge of it. But with that log barrier in, they kind of just jump. And actually, sometimes they do jump straight over. So I really like that view. That's the first... No, he got out, straight out there. Oh, yeah, it doesn't... The animation's not quite so great with the small guys. So another one of our little beds here. So let's push past all the people. Past the VIP peeps. With their sunglasses on inside. Fair enough. So you roll. And then we're coming round to... So there's a few different things. So I put this, if you remember from the last episode, I put this raised platform in. There's a bit more to see of that, but there's a downstairs view of this. I'll just put this kind of gesture of water coming. It's supposed to be like a waterway, but never mind. It's not great, but it's all right. Yeah, and I quite like that view as well. Again, it's a slightly different view of the habitat. And then we've got another view. Obviously, if we just kind of... Can we get up these? Sometimes getting up this is a little bit difficult in Tycoon. But there we go. So we've got this raised view as well. Which again, I think is really nice. Gives a different perspective on the animals. It's not a massive habitat, but it does the job. I think it's very slightly under their requirements, but... higher on the swimming. Yeah, so there we'll go down into the habitat in a second. I'll just continue showing you this bit here. So this isn't finished yet, but the idea of this is going to be so we've got this is the night house. I'll show you that in a sec. Again, that's not finished. There's some detailing stuff to do still. But the idea is that this section, so this slatted section, is going to be a continuation of this deck up here, and you'll be able to walk up there. So this glass all needs to come round, this panelling needs to come round, and you'll be able to... The idea is that you'll be able to look over into the night house, but also get a view over into the rest of the island. So that will then be a raised viewing area for this section of the habitats, or the island there. But for now, yeah, it's got a lot of work to do still. But getting there. Just ran out of time, to be honest, on this one. I spent so long trying to make that manatee look vaguely convincing. So past our reptiles, back to that view. And then this needs to be finished, but this is, again, another kind of educational area. So I'm using this now as my, educational indicator. So 10 things about tapirs, and this needs to be all done, finished properly, but... this side needs something. I think maybe this is going to be a continuation of the education stuff here. And then we're just going to put stuff about the tapirs on these. There'll be I think there's going to be 10. So this isn't right, and this font's too small and stuff, but this is roughly an idea of what I'm going to do. So it's supposed to be that you there's an education board, you press a button, that speaker will tell you some stuff about that. So it'll be tapir means thick, so it's actually a translation. Tapir translates as thick, which I thought was quite funny. And then there's a bunch of others to go, but I will show you that again in the next episode, because hopefully I'll have finished it by then. So if we follow the path round, so this is continuing that like slatted wood that I've got on the other side. So yeah, again, lighting down below, but sort of using those tube lights. And then this is the access into, oh, he's like he's standing guard there. This is the access into the night house. I deliberately put a wooden door in there just to block off the view because I didn't want people kind of standing there and looking through. So continuation of those boards. This I think will then be a view into the next habitat. So that's all, none of that's stressed, all the back of that's wrong, that sort of stuff. But if we go in here, so there's an airlock door. And this is very basic and kind of utilitarian. I need to hide those away, but so we've got like a bit of aircon, probably need some heaters in here, a drain, little bit of bedding. I don't massively want to encourage them to be in here. I put this camera in because I thought it kind of makes sense. I think they probably do have that in zoos. Oh, there's our dome structure. Wow, our viewing thing. These bubble things are actually quite cool because they sort of you'd be able to have like kids with their hands on the top of that, sticky fingerprints and all that sort of thing. If we go into the actual habitat, you'll see some of the things I was talking about in the speed build. So there's my wall. I think we'll use that again probably, and as I said, the other side of it we'll probably use as well at some point. So as you see, that's that cover shelter or something I think it's called, upside down. These are these raised planters. So if you didn't catch that, it's that piece. African hut base. Just unclick for that second. And then just again some like bits and pieces, so a bit more of that stuff going on there, a bit more of the netting. I made that a one-way glass so they get some privacy. That bit of deck I think is probably going to come across that corner there, so it's not like a weird angle. And there'll be steps down onto the top of the night house. I put this there for a reason. I'll show you that in a second, but again, sightlines are sort of important. Put this guard around this tree so that they can't eat the tree. And then we've got, I'll just show you this for a second. So there's all our tree and our foliage up there and our creeping vines and things. So this will probably need a little bit of tweaking and stuff, but the idea is that this will be wide enough, just wide enough for, and then obviously need that change, but just wide enough for the keeper to get through to the next habitat, but not wide enough for the tapirs to get through. I probably will have to do something while there's a baby in here to block him off, but I'm sort of not massively bothered about them getting in and out. It doesn't really matter. I always find this a bit weird at this like miracle grows as you get closer towards it. Yeah, and so there's the little ramp down and another view of manatee. If we can see it, there's one there. Look. So let's have a look and see what it looks like in the night. What's a good time? So I need a bit of work. Still need a bit of work in the actual habitat. Although what we've got is some lighting, some sort of implied lighting. Oh, there's another box up there. Some implied lighting because the lights in the roof don't actually reach down to ground level. So I want to keep it reasonably dark in here, but I think the bits where the guests are where it should be light. Oh, hello. So those work kind of well. A bit of lighting in here. If we zoom back out here, we'll see this is all lit. Oh, that light's going to need to go. So I think that's mostly it, guys, for this one. Let's just zoom back to the front so we can show you the starry entrance, which is kind of nice and coming together. Oh, I look like I've messed something up there. Fix that. So that's okay. I think I'm going to maybe do something hanging down. It definitely needs more in here anyway. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that one came out. Do let me know if you want to see some more details on any of these particular things, because I'm sculpting over them quite quickly, or not. Yeah, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Toves. Take it easy.